Bum 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 bum. Welcome everyone. I'm so excited. I'm showing you how I swatch my inks and a little bit about how I store my distress ink. And here you can see all of my swatches laid out prior to me getting them all fixed in the hex. After moving, I had to take everything down, and now I'm finally putting it back up. That was my regular distress ink and my Daniel Smith. Let's discuss swatching. So, the way I swatch, and I tried a bunch of different things. This, I feel like, works definitely best for me and may work awesome for you as well, is I swatch everything out in a hexagon shape. Then I put a magnet on the back and put them on a whiteboard and arrange them in color order. So I'll go ahead and put a clip in or a photo to show you kind of what I do. So, how do I create this? Well, why do I create this? Because it's awesome to be able to see all the different medium that you have and say, I really want to use this Bordeaux watercolor on my next project. But what other colors should I use? I really want some glitter, so I go to the glitter and I look, oh, champagne. This looks perfect together. And then I can go over to my distress inks and say, oh, look, the wilted violet with it looks just amazing. So, it's really fun to be able to see, pick out, feel, touch, and put back really easily. Plus, it's so colorful and really brightens up the room. Instead of having it in a book that you hide away most of the time, it's right out in the open. Now, I have used 3 different sizes of hexagons to complete this. This little teeny weeny one, medium, and then this bigger one. Started here, went to this. I'm using this size right now. For some things, like my Crystal Nouveau drops, these tiny ones are perfect. And if you really only had the budget for one thing, I'd go with these tiny ones. It's gonna be fine, and it'll be really easy. And this is the Paper Tray Ink Cover Plate Hex Die, is this size. The next thing I tried, because I felt like this was the perfect size, was this Fiskars Hexagon Punch. My issue is it doesn't really actually seem to punch anything. It can barely cut out Nina 80-pound cardstock, so I wouldn't suggest that. I like the size a lot, but the usability is just not there. Finally, I've been using this 1.25 inch punch. If you know who it's from, then comment below. I am not sure. I got it at a yard sale for $1, and you can't even see their name. It used to have their last name on here, but it was amazing. Perfect $1 buy, and I used the 1.25 inch. But it is a massive punch, and it has cut through everything I've put through it. So next, you can either use this is magnet tape that I used on this one. I have switched to use this adhesive magnetic sheets. You can die cut it out, and like I die cut it out of this plate and then glued them all on the back of these, and that works perfectly. You get a lot of coverage. You can also cut it into squares. You're magneting a small piece of paper to a whiteboard. Like, it's gonna be fine. They're a lot easier and they don't come off near as much as this magnet tape. I do like the dimension of the magnet tape, but it doesn't matter enough. So my suggestion is this adhesive magnetic sheets. You can find them for cheap. The one thing to remember though when you're swatching things out is to go ahead and use whatever you're going to be using the medium on most. So the distress ink I used on Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock. I think the same with the glitter. The Bordeaux, I went ahead and put it on my favorite watercolor paper, which is the Fabriano Artistico, just because if that's what you're really going to have it on most of the time, you want to see how it works on there, what it looks like, because it may look different than something else on a different medium. So, finally, I used a stamp positioner, like the Misty. So, I'm going to go ahead and punch out all the ones. I need to swatch my Distress Oxides, so I'm going to get ready and we'll pick up in a little bit. So after punching everything out, I used the Mirror Block stamp set by Paper Smooches to swatch everything out. And you can see here, this is the stamp I used. I went ahead, pulled it out, got it set up. One important thing, you want to have the hex in the same, you know, to make sure it actually gets stamped. So you can do what I did here and stamp it out or punch it out and have a space so you make sure you stamp it fully each time. You can also just stamp it once and put it in the area. Now here I have, you can see I missed a little bit on the edges. So rather than stamping it again or doing anything, I just wiped it on that stamp on the extra ink. And with the Distress Oxides, I only had to stamp it once on the regular Distress ink to get a really smooth, flat stamp. I had to stamp it 2 to 3 times. So I really like these Distress Oxides for that. I did the same thing again. It's really easy. The one thing you want to make sure you do is to put them aside to dry in a space where you're going to know what color is which. Because I've had that issue before. And you're not going to want to put any kind of label on there until it fully dries. So see here, you can see what I did is I just placed them on top of my mini Distress inks, which obviously aren't Distress Oxides, but it kept them organized. So this is after about 30 minutes and they're completely dry, ready to go. So I got out my Brother labeler and started labeling. Since I bought this label maker, I've done all my labels in this one special font just because I really like it and I have the ability to. So here I'm going through and picking out the font that I like, which is this ADM, I don't know. And then the one other thing that I changed is the tab length to where there is no cut. And this just saves a lot of the tape. The tape goes by really fast as it is, and so not adding the tabs is really helpful. So here you can see I'm adding the Distress Oxide. I made sure to put the Oxide because I wanted to know what was an Oxide and what was the Distress ink, as that's important. since on the ink pad, the fired brick isn't actually capitalized, I went ahead and just didn't capitalize it this time, plus it's a lot easier. And as I did that, after I did that and printed it out once, since I only needed it once, I moved on to the next one and printed that one out once. And I got through and went through and did all 24 in that same way. So here we are at the end, and you can see my long strip of labels, and that walnut stain is at the very end. That's telling me that the label, like there's no more label tape in there, so I'm gonna have to buy some more. So that one is sadly gonna have to wait. That hex is gonna have to wait for a label because I don't have any more label tape, but I go ahead and cut down on the sides because the hex isn't all that big, and I'd rather have that real estate be the color as opposed to white. So I'm cutting above and below, and I did that on all of these. And next I'll cut on the left side just straight down, and on the right I go ahead and cut around. If they're not, I'll cut into it, you'll see. So they can get as much of the color on the hex as possible. Here I am. Boop, boop, boop. And then I make sure to place everything in order. So right now I'm placing these on top of the hexes that they will be, that they'll get stuck onto. Because you don't want to have gone to all this trouble and put them on the wrong thing. Then I go ahead and place them all on the side, and that just keeps it uniform. You can see on my regular distress ink that I have one hex that is not uniform like this, and it kind of bugs me. I might have to redo it. If you have an issue like on this cracked pistachio one where you get a little bit of transfer, I just go ahead and stick the sticker over that area. Then after I get all those stuck on, I go through, you can see this vintage photo is the last one because the walnut stain. Stupid label tape. After I do that, I have them all in order because they're all in color order, so it'll make it easier to put them on the whiteboard. So after doing that, you can see that walnut stain got a little oxidized. I'm not real sure why because I didn't use any water, but I just cut the adhesive magnetic sheets into squares and stick them on the back. It's really easy and simple. I don't add any other glue. If you had laminated them like I did with some of the glitters, you may need to get a stronger magnet and glue that magnet to the paper after you've laminated it. But for these, it was super easy. I just peeled off the backing and stuck it to the back, and it works out really good. Personally, I don't grab these while my hands are really inky. If I'm looking at them and picking them up and comparing them to other colors, then I'm doing that before I've started a project. So laminating them just isn't worth the extra effort because then you have to cut it out and it's just, not worth it. So here I am, the final part, putting it on my whiteboard, which is the most fun. And sometimes I go back and I'm like, oh, this should be here and this should be here. It's a lot of fun. And as I get more of these distress oxides, I'll have to redo it every time. but I just kind of play with it until I get it right. There's not much more more I can say to that. There's no rhyme or reason other than just trying to get it in rainbow order. I do put lighter colors towards the center and darker colors towards the edge, except for in the very center where I have the blacks, grays, and whites. So you can see there, putting the Distress Oxide, Black Soot, Ice Spruce, and Antique Linen, and I put the Antique Linen near the yellows with the browns on the very outside of the yellows and oranges. Once I got it to where I liked it, I put the whiteboard back on the wall, and I have it using the Command Velcro sticks. And that's also what I used here on the back of these nail polish stadium stands that I house my Distress Oxide ink in. And I put everything in the same place on each of them. And then I stuck them to the wall with them being completely empty. And you can see in there that I am using a level to make sure I'm getting it level. So I can take these off the wall and put them back, and I'll be able to like switch which stadium stand is in which spot. Now you might not think that once you get everything on there that they'll actually hold against the wall, but they've been there for 48 hours now and I've had no issues. There's nothing, so they'll stand the test of time, and it's a lot easier than putting shelves up. So you can see I put my archival ink in as well, and they're just perfect. I'm calling it my color corner because it's just so much fun. I have my whiteboard with my favorite ink swatches and all of these Distress Oxide, archival ink, and Distress inks all right there at my fingertips. And I'm just super excited that they're off the table, but still within really easy reach. So thank you so much. Leave a comment and subscribe so you can see my next video. Thanks, guys.